Hello and welcome to this European Funding Information session brought to you by the University of South Australia's Jean Monnet Centre of Excellence. I'm Anthony Elliott. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which I'm speaking today, the Kaurna people, and to pay my respects to their elders, past, present and future. At the Jean Monnet Centre of Excellence at UniSA, we're dedicated to the development of education, research and outreach programs aimed at promoting a deeper understanding of European integration as well as EU-Australia relations. The Centre of Excellence is co-funded by the ERASMUS programme of the European Commission and the University of South Australia. UniSA's success in winning EU grants, especially in the Erasmus Plus programme, has served as a launching pad for its Centre of Excellence, its network programme, which focuses on automated mobilities, as well as various Monnet projects. These various grants have served to promote international engagement with Europe. All of these grants have served to consolidate UniSA's success as a globally recognised international university. In this session, we're going to hear from Nishant Shandilia. Nishant is the regional representative for ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand, an initiative of the European Commission that addresses barriers to the mobility of researchers and seeks to enhance scientific collaboration between Europe and Australia and New Zealand. Nishant Shandilia had previously led strategy, innovation and international research projects, including European Commission-funded FP7 and Horizon 2020 grants, as well as tenders, specifically in the fields of ICT, internationalization and social innovation.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the information session on EU research funding. My name is Nishant Shandilia. I'm the regional representative for ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand. So in this particular presentation, we'll be having a look at two distinct subtopics. First is the European funding for researchers, wherein we will look at the Marie Curie actions and the European Research Council grants. And the second part is about ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand, wherein we'll discuss about our mandate and our activities. And you'll understand later on why we are focusing on ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand for research funding related to Europe. To begin with, let's look at European funding for researchers. To summarize and to remove all the ambiguity, we would like to distinguish European funding for researchers into two halves, fellowships and grants. So if you look at fellowships, at all stages of researchers' career from PhD program onwards, whether it be in public or private sector, there is something called Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, which are fellowships. On the other hand, there are grants for outstanding researchers of any nationality, regardless of their age or research topic. There is certain grants on frontier of knowledge funded by the European Research Council. So we'll look at two very distinct funding opportunities, fellowships and grants. And we would like to start with the Marie Skłodowska-Curie action, which is, in shorter term, we use it as MSCA. So what is Marie Curie actions? It is part of the Horizon 2020 program, which is the European Research and Innovation Framework Program, which started in 2014 and will go until 2020 this year. And the budget for the Marie Curie action is euro 6.16 billion for this period. So of course, the expectation is to provide support to researchers in approximation of 65,000. And that includes European researchers as well as researchers from other parts of the world. The interesting thing about Marie Curie actions is, as I mentioned, it's open to all the nationalities. So of course, the idea is to promote collaboration between academics, scientific and business communities in order to boost their careers in terms of scientific and develop excellent doctoral programs. If you look at the right-hand side of your screen, you can see that we include third countries' participation. And the interesting part is Australia is ranked number 4 in terms of third country participation, wherein you can see 6% of the participants to Marie Curie fellowships or Marie Curie actions come from Australia. So of course, this is an encouraging sign. However, what we would like to try is better that in the days to come, right? So just to give you a very brief understanding, Marie Curie action can be divided into 4 particular actions. The first one is ITN, which is the Innovative Training Network. So if you look at the Innovative Training Networks, it's a joint research training or doctoral program which bring together universities, research institutes, and other sectors from across the world to train researchers to doctoral level and develop excellent doctoral programs. Bear in mind, we are discussing here in the context of researchers. Of course, ITN is applied by universities, but after the application has been done, all the approval has been maintained, who gets to avail these research funding is the researchers, individual researchers. We'll have a look at ITN in more detail in the following slides. The second thing that I'd like to focus is on individual fellowships. These are fellowships for postdoc researchers of any nationality and enable them to move across borders within and outside Europe, sectors, discipline-wise. We'll also look at individual fellowship in more details because these ITN and IF are the core of Marie Curie for individual researchers. Then, of course, there are Research and Innovation Staff Exchange, RISE, which are short-term exchange of personnel between universities, research institutes, and other sectors throughout the world. We'll not have a look at it in much details because this targets institution per se and not to individual researchers. The last of the Marie Curie action is the co-fund. Co-funding of regional, national, and international program provides organizations in Europe with financial support for their own doctoral or postdoctoral and career development programs. The reason that I included all 4 of them is for you to have an overall understanding of what are the Marie Curie actions. So of course, we'll go into details into ITN and IF because ITN is related to PhD applicants. Individual fellowship is related to postdoctoral applicants. And for both of them, it's open to all the nationalities and it's open to any research sector or discipline. So let's understand where does Marie Skłodowska-Curie action determine itself as students and for postdocs. So if you are a student, if you are likely to start your PhD abroad, there are 2 possibilities. First possibility is to look at doctoral related vacancies that are published under the Marie Skłodowska-Curie action ITN, Innovative Training Networks, and also in the co-fund doctoral programs. These vacancies are posted in the ERASMUS job site. So of course, that is one part if you are a student. However, if you are a postdoc or if you are a talented researcher who already has a PhD and are looking to undertake research abroad, then the option is to apply for the 2 or 3 year individual fellowship or look at job vacancies under the co-fund postdoc program. So these are 2 distinct ways. You need to categorize yourself as a student or a postdoc. Once you understand this, now we delve into what is ITN and what is IF. The first thing that we need to understand is ITN, the Innovative Training Networks. So the ITN drives scientific excellence and innovation, and these bring universities, research institutions, and organizations from different sectors and offer high doctoral programs and research training. So of course, who applies for ITN is the international network of research organizations from both the academic and non-academic sector. However, who is funded? Early stage researchers of any nationality. So once we understand this, there are 3 types of ITN: the European Training Network, Industrial Doctorate, and Joint Doctorate. So of course, when you apply for any type of ITN, it is applying like a job. There are already projects that have been set by beneficiaries, partner organizations which are involved in a given ITN. All you have to do is apply to the one that interests you. We have already discussed this. It's open to all the fields, and all available ITNs are advertised on Marie Curie Action website or the ERASMUS job website. We'll have a look at ERASMUS job website later on in this presentation. The second thing is the individual fellowships. So by individual fellowship, we can understand that these are for experienced researchers or postdoc to work on research projects together with institutes. So who applies for this? These are individual researchers together with their host organizations in the EU or associated countries. But of course, who is funded? Experienced researchers, again, of any nationality. There are two types of individual fellowship, the European fellowship and the global fellowship. For our sake, we'll focus more on the European fellowship because these are fellows who want to move to a member state or an associate country for 1 or 2 years, which is 12 to 24 months. But of course, if there are people or if there are fellows who want to, from the member state or associate country, who want to come to Australia for that matter, they have to return to Europe for 12 months at least. So this is individual fellowship. The interesting part is the individual fellowships is open at the moment. It's open on April 8th and is open until 9th of September. If you are interested in understanding what these individual fellowships are, how do you apply for this? If there are application advice, of course, we have a webinar on 4th June slotted for individual fellowship for postdoc researchers who would like to enlarge in their understanding of any particular research topic. So this is what we discussed about ITN. ITN is for PhDs, IF is for postdoctoral researchers, open to any nationality, open to any sector and discipline. Now we move on to the grant aspect of this scheme, which is the European Research Council related grants. So what is ERC? It's an integral part of the Horizon 2020, which has a budget of almost twice that of the Marie Curie and is around 13 billion euros for the period of 2014 till 2020. So if you look at the numbers that we have at the moment, you can see that there are 8% of the ERC grantees, which belong to non-EU or associated countries, of which 7% are Australians. And 48, that is the exact or the absolute number of people whose origin is Australia. So this figure is for a period of 2007 till 2018. The general features for ERC funding, these are long-term grants and can go up till 6 years, which we'll look at in more details. There is no need for any consortium, no need of any co-financing, open to any field or research. There are no thematic priorities. The idea is to have groundbreaking, high-risk, high-gain research projects. Of course, host organizations need to be in EU member state or associated country, or could be an international European interest organization. The sole criteria for ERC-related grants is scientific excellence of researchers and research proposal. So of course, when these proposals are evaluated, they are evaluated by international peer review evaluation process based on 25 different panels. When you apply for the ERC grant, you get to choose which panel you like your proposal to be evaluated from. Of course, the characteristic of ERC grants is that the procedure is very simple and it combines flexibility with accountability. And there are, because these are very famous or prestigious grants, there are certain restrictions on resubmissions. But of course, we need to understand that if you are applying for these type of project or if you are applying for these type of grants, you need to be very ready in terms of what is your final proposal going to look like. To print an overarching aim to help you visualize what are the different type of ERC grant scheme. The first type of grant scheme is the starting grants. These are for people who have had their PhDs for 2 to 7 years. And these are for an amount of up to 1.5 million for a duration of 5 years. I tried to put the success rate as well. As of 2019, the success rate is around 13.1% for starting grants. Then we will move further on to the experience chain and we go at the consolidator grants. These are for those people who are within the time frame of 7 to 12 years of their PhD. These grants go till 2 million euros and with a duration of 5 years. The success rate slightly decreases to 12.3%. Then we move on to advanced grant. These are grants which, if you want to avail, you need to have a very significant research achievement, track record, which compels an evaluator to say you are a very outstanding researcher. These are for a funding of up to 2.5 million euros for a period of 5 years. Again, the success rate decreases to 9.8%. So these are starting, consolidated, and advanced grant. Then proof of concept is for those researchers who already has an ERC grant. So if you either have a starting, consolidated, or advanced grant, then you automatically become eligible to apply for proof of concept grant. If you do not have either of the three, you cannot apply for proof of concept grant. So we'll not look at this in much detail. However, there is one last type of ERC grant scheme, which is the synergy grant. This is very interesting because from 2019 onwards, one PI can be based outside Europe or any associated country. So it's of good use to Australian researchers. If you are a principal investigator and if you do not want to move abroad to pursue your research topic or research ideas, you can still apply to a synergy grant, wherein there are 2 to 4 principal investigators. The grant is pretty large, 10 million euros. The duration is quite long, for 6 years. So these are the 5 ERC grant scheme. However, what is of significant point to be understood is that the advanced grant are the only ERC grant which is still open for the year 2020. This is open till 26th of August. And the advanced grant, as I mentioned earlier, if you look at the slide, if you have a track record of significant research achievement in the last 10 years, you can apply for this. This is open to any nationality on any particular subject. It's particularly for high-risk research that opens new direction in a field of their choice. What we did was recently, 2 months back, the ERC Advanced Grant 2019 results were out, and we found out, of course, that there are 2 Australian recipients of advanced grants. So we did look at those 2 grantees, interviewed them. We have their video interviews posted on our YouTube channel. So of course, once you receive this presentation, you can simply click on either of those photographs to watch the interviews. The interviews are of significant interest because both of the researchers have given first-hand experience of how they went about putting together a proposal, what are their advice, what are their suggestions in terms of to-dos and to not to-dos. So of course, if you have some time, do have a look at those 2 videos. Now, this is what we understood about the 2 types of European funding in broader sense. So if you look at these fundings, these are pretty large funding. Marie Curie had a budget of 6.16 billion euros for the 7 years. ERC had a budget of 13 billion for the 7 years. So those are 2 very basic funding possibilities. Of course, within that, as you saw, there are 4 under Marie Curie actions, 5 under ERC grants. So once we understand this, why do we discuss ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand? Why do we want you to have a look at Researchers in Motion, our activities? What do we try to understand here? The first thing is, let's understand what ERASMUS is. It's a pan-European initiative which is backed by the European research areas. Of course, there are the European Union states, and then there are the associated countries which support this initiative of supporting researchers, mobility, and career development in order to enhance scientific collaboration between Europe and the rest of the world. All the services that ERASMUS provides are free of charge. So of course, to understand ERASMUS better, ERASMUS has 4 pillars. So what are those pillars? The first pillar is jobs and funding. Since you might recall that I've been included a point called you have to look at the Marie Curie ITN vacancies or co-fund vacancies on Marie Curie website or ERASMUS website. So where does these vacancy can be found? Can be found here, exactly. So if you are looking for jobs, or if you want to post your offers related to research jobs on the website itself, there are currently 14,211 research job positions available. On the other side, if you are looking for funding for your research project, there are 519 funding possibilities. There are available if you want to search for funding, if you want to search for hosts, it's available there. This is one of the pillars of your access, jobs and funding. The second pillar is information and assistance. So your access provides information and assistance. The first aspect is if you want to settle in, or if you want to work in, or if you are leaving a European country, there are 14 national portals which provide specific country-related knowledge packed with practical advice, wherein you can go to their website and try to understand anything that is concerning your professional or daily life, as well as career development in that particular country. The second aspect of information and assistance is the ERASMUS Support Center. There are 600 such support centers which provide support to researchers free of charge, and this relates to services which facilitates your move and stay abroad. So of course, if you are moving to a country, you can find what all support centers are available in that particular country, and you can send your request regarding any such type of issue that you are facing. That is the second pillar. The third pillar is partnering. So if you want, if you already have funding, or if you are still looking for a host organization, you might want to understand which type of partner do you need. If you are looking at finding members, there are currently 93,548 registered members on the portal and 17,186 registered organizations and universities. So of course, if you want to find members, organizations, just log into the ERASMUS portal and try to see who would you like to partner with, and you can express your interest. The last pillar is ERASMUS Worldwide. So if you look at this map, ERASMUS Worldwide is the international arm of ERASMUS. It helps to bridge any barrier, if there is any, in terms of scientific collaboration between Europe with rest of the world. By rest of the world, we can see that there are 8 such hubs globally: US and Canada, Latin America and Caribbean, India, China, Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, and Australia and New Zealand. The most nascent hub is Australia and New Zealand. ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand was inaugurated, or it started its operation in January of 2020. So what we brought is the ERASMUS initiative started in Australia and New Zealand in January of 2020, wherein we try to bring specific information that will be available for Australia and New Zealand researchers with regards to any sort of European funding, European research and career opportunities, international collaboration, or if there are any networking possibilities. So of course, if you click at the link, you will be taken to the membership link, wherein you can register for free membership, and if you register, you get to avail a lot of information. Of course, we'll discuss that in much more detail later on. However, just to categorize, there are 2 types of information that as ERASMUS or ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand, we try to provide to our members: information and outreach, network and animation. In terms of information and outreach, as I mentioned already, there on the portal, there are information that are targeted to specific groups on what type of funding opportunities are there, if there are any events that are going to happen, any research-related interviews, policy paper, country profile. So, of course, I'd encourage all of you to have a look at the website and go and try to check what information would be useful for you. The portal is the first point of contact for ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand. Second thing that we have in terms of outreach and information is social media. We are active on LinkedIn and on Facebook. So of course, if you want to keep yourself updated of daily understanding of these progresses or updates, do have a look at the LinkedIn and Facebook page of ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand. We try to provide information on a daily basis, once on weekdays. Then we move on to newsletters and flash notes. We intend to produce 4 quarterly newsletters in the year and 50 weekly flash notes. These are sent to all our members directly to their email address, wherein we try to bring high quality content that is relevant to Australia and New Zealand landscape regarding European funding. The last part of information and outreach is tutorials. So you might remember that we discussed about Marie Curie, individual fellowship, ITN, ERC grants. So we try to come up with step-by-step guides for funding. These are delivered electronically. Of course, there is one of the examples that I have included on individual fellowship on our website as well. Now we move on to the second aspect, network animation. This is particularly interesting if it was the pre-COVID times. So what we used to have was institutional visits, your access information sessions, ERC days, grants in practice, alumni or diaspora meetings. However, because we are in this unique circumstances wherein the COVID has hampered our ability to do a network animation physically, what we have switched on is to a webinar approach, an online approach wherein we bring a series of information sessions which are delivered digitally. So of course, we already have conducted 2 individual fellowship related webinars, edition 1 and edition 2. Having said that, there are quite a series of webinars that we have planned. More specifically, if you look at the Marie Curie European Fellowship, which would be of interest to you, specifically on application advice, we have a webinar on 4th of June. If you are interested, of course, you'll be receiving an invitation to join in. I'd encourage you to, of course, register for the webinar and try to understand what advice do the experts give you in terms of applying for this type of funding. Similarly, down the line, we intend to do how to do PhD in Europe, frontier science in Europe, ERC grants, ERASMUS career development tools and services, how to get published in natural science, how to get published in social science and humanities, how to do a postdoc in Europe, and lastly, intersectoral mobility, moving from academia to industry. So of course, once we understand these, what is the point of contact? So of course, as I mentioned, I'm Nishan Sandilya. I am the country representative for ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand. You can find my email address there. If you have any specific request, if you want to understand, if you have any query regarding any of the fundings that we have already discussed, any of the ERC grant or the Marie Curie actions, please feel free to send me an email. I also encourage you to sign up for the free membership to our ERASMUS Australia and New Zealand portal, or you can just join in our Facebook page or our LinkedIn page. Thank you very much for joining me for this particular information session. I look forward in the near future to receiving questions, queries that you might have in terms of these fundings. Also, if you want us to come up with webinars on very specific fundings, do not hesitate to let us know so that we can bring you such detailed webinars in the coming times. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to stay in touch with all of you. Have a nice day.